Connecticut Congressman John Larson, who is up for re-election, has filed articles of impeachment against President Donald Trump. Larson says the move comes amid the unrest in the Middle East and the president's comments on social media recently this week. Fox 61's Joe Monte has more on the move and an update on the war in Iran. And we made a bit of a breakthrough last night, Joe, in terms of a temporary ceasefire. Tell us about that.
Good morning, Bridget. Yeah, a lot of major updates over the course of the last 12 hours last night in Iran and at home with some of our local leaders. I'll start with John Larson. He filed articles of impeachment against the president, and he's also calling on the president's cabinet following this Iran war and some of the president's statements in recent times regarding Iran, some of the threats that he's made. He's calling to invoke the 25th Amendment. Now, what this would mean is that the vice president would basically take power, and this is typically used when the president dies or resigns or cannot discharge their duties. Now, Larson is calling for this because he says the president is putting our security at risk. Senator Chris Murphy joined in on these calls. Take a listen.
Hey people, DR John here. So what just happened, guys? 13 formal articles of impeachment, war crimes, illegal warfare, threatened genocide, just landed on the House clerk's desk. Trump's response wasn't a legal defense or presidential composure. It was a live meltdown on Truth Social, rage posting at everyone in sight as the consequences of his own words finally caught up to him.
The president has promised to commit war crimes. He's promised to eradicate an entire civilization. We have never, ever seen that in the history of this country. That's why I and many other people have been talking for the last 24 hours about the 25th Amendment.
Now, yesterday, the president reached a historic deal with Iran for what he calls a complete, immediate, and safe opening to the Strait of Hormuz. They've also reached a 2-week ceasefire, and Iran submitted a 10-point plan for peace, and President Trump says that it's a workable basis to negotiate, and ultimately, the goal is for long-term peace in Iran and the Middle East. Senate Republicans appear to be behind the president. Even Senator Mitch McConnell, who's no major ally of the president, he supports this fight because he says Iran has already been at war with the U.S. for close to 50 years, killing many Americans and our allies.
They've been at war with us for 47 years. They've killed Americans, they've killed Israelis, they've killed throughout the Middle East our Sunni Arab allies like Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia. They were bad guys.
The man who spent years calling impeachment a hoax is now staring at 13 official charges, and he's completely falling apart. Here is the sequence of events that led us to this boiling point. It began with a post on Truth Social that crossed every line of human decency and international law. Trump staring down a geopolitical standoff over the Strait of Hormuz.
Now, the ceasefire and the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz came just about an hour before the president's deadline, before there was massive destruction in Iran. But those attacks were called off following the 10-point peace plan, the reopening of the strait. It seems like Iran might be coming to the table, at least to hold off this attack. For now, the president postponed it for another 2 weeks. We're going to have to see whether or not the ceasefire upholds, whether the strait remains open. We'll continue to keep you updated with the latest information out of Iran. For now, Joe Monte, Fox 61.
And as the strait remains open, Joe, the hope is that gas prices will start to tick back down. So we'll be following that closely.
Decided that the appropriate response was not diplomacy, not strategic signaling, but a promise of mass death. He typed out the words, "A whole civilization will die tonight." Read that again. Not a military target, not a regime. A whole civilization. He was talking about Iran. He was threatening 80 million human beings, men, women, children, families, with total annihilation. And he posted it with the casual indifference of someone ordering a sandwich. Like promising to erase a nation from the map was just another Tuesday afternoon. The reaction was instantaneous and global. The United Nations erupted in condemnation. World leaders expressed horror. And on Capitol Hill, the dam didn't just break, it exploded. Over 80 members of Congress immediately began calling for his removal, not in hushed tones, but in full-throated public demands. Within a day, Representative John Larson of Connecticut stepped forward and filed the formal paperwork. 13 articles of impeachment, and these are not symbolic gestures. These are not performative press releases designed to fundraise. These are detailed, legalistic accusations charging Trump with waging illegal war, with endangering American lives through reckless threats, with flagrant violations of international law, and with the specific, documented crime of threatening genocide. Every single article is backed by the smoking gun of Trump's own words. They present a cohesive, damning case that Trump is not just politically inconvenient, he is actively dangerous to the survival of the human species. And now it is official. Donald Trump is facing his third impeachment, and the political terrain upon which this battle is fought is fundamentally different. This time, it just might stick. Why? Because the first two impeachments, Trump had a shield. He could brush them off as partisan witch hunts. He could count on the reflexive, unbreakable loyalty of the Republican caucus. He could rally his base around the flag of victimhood. But this time, the landscape has shifted beneath his feet. We are not talking about a handful of progressive firebrands making noise. We are talking about a bloc of over 80 Democrats who are not merely open to impeachment, they are demanding it. Heavy hitters and influential voices across the caucus are no longer just calling for hearings. They are invoking the 25th Amendment, the emergency cord for removing a president who is mentally unhinged and unfit to discharge the duties of office. They are using words like maniacal and genocidal. And critically, they are not alone in the wilderness. The American public is with them. Polling data shows that 52% of Americans now support impeachment. Let that number sink in. A majority, more than half of the entire country, has looked at the threat to kill a civilization and decided, yeah, this guy needs to go, now. That is a political earthquake, and Trump's response to this unprecedented pressure, it's not a strategy, it's a symptom. He is having a psychotic meltdown in full view of the global public. His Truth Social account has become a window into a mind in freefall. He's attacking judges who dare to rule against him. He's attacking the Democrats who filed the papers. He's raging about witch hunts and hoaxes and deep state conspiracies. Every new post, every all-caps outburst only serves to validate the central thesis of the impeachment articles. This is a man who is spiraling, who is unstable, and who absolutely should not have his finger anywhere near the nuclear button. And Democrats are simply pointing at the screen and saying, see, we told you. This is exactly why he cannot remain in power. And the financial markets of political prediction are reflecting this new reality. The betting odds on Trump being removed from office before the end of his term have spiked to 28%. That is the highest probability we have ever seen. People are putting real money on the line, betting that the impeachment will succeed, that the pressure will force him out, that this time the walls are simply too high to climb. Those odds surged specifically because of the Iran threat, because of the 13 articles, and because of the visceral, public nature of Trump's unhinged response. And here is the most terrifying development for the West Wing. Republicans are getting nervous. Not all of them. Not most of them. But cracks are appearing in the monolith. Some are quietly distancing themselves from the civilization will die rhetoric. Some are refusing to defend it when pressed by reporters. Some are looking at their own re-election maps and doing the grim math. Do I really want to go down with this ship? Do I want my legacy to be defending a genocide threat? Do I want to be tethered to a president who is melting down on social media? And for a small but growing number, the answer is no. That is existential terror for Trump because his entire survival mechanism relies on total Republican protection. He needs the shield. If that shield starts to crack, if even a few Republicans break ranks, the whole fortress of impunity collapses. And all of this is happening while the rest of the presidency crumbles around him. Courts are stripping away his claims of absolute immunity. Military brass are being purged for calling him incompetent. His own hand-picked allies are facing legal jeopardy. And now, formal impeachment articles with majority public support. Faced with this convergence of crises, Trump is breaking. He's not adapting. He's not strategizing. He's just raging. And honestly, watching him completely fall apart as the consequences finally catch up is the reckoning we've been waiting for. Let's really dig into the text of what Trump posted because context is everything. This wasn't just inflammatory rhetoric. This wasn't just Trump being Trump. This was a threat of genocide posted publicly by the commander-in-chief. During the height of the Iran crisis, he looked at his phone and typed, "A whole civilization will die tonight." Pause and absorb the totality of those words. A whole civilization, not the Iranian military, not the Revolutionary Guard, not the government infrastructure. The civilization, 80 million souls, poets, teachers, children playing in the streets, grandparents telling stories, all of them. And he said they would die tonight. That is the textbook definition of a genocidal threat that is promising to wipe out an entire people group, and he posted it like it was a weather update. The international community recoiled. The UN issued formal condemnations. Even the Pope felt compelled to speak out. America's allies expressed shock and dismay because you cannot threaten genocide, ever, under any circumstances. It violates every international law, every human rights convention, every basic moral principle that separates civilization from barbarism. And Trump did it publicly, proudly, as if threatening to murder 80 million people was just tough guy posturing, just a negotiation tactic, just being strong. Domestically, the reaction was even more visceral. Over 80 House Democrats didn't wait for a committee meeting. They didn't wait for leadership to get comfortable. They immediately started calling for removal. Some wanted the 25th Amendment, the emergency constitutional mechanism for when the president is incapable of rational thought. They weren't being hyperbolic. They were saying, this man just threatened genocide. This man is unstable. This man is dangerous. This man cannot be allowed to remain in office for one more day. Representatives like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ro Khanna didn't hold back. They called the threat genocidal. They called Trump unhinged and maniacal. They urged cabinet members to invoke the 25th Amendment and refuse any unlawful orders, because threatening to wipe out an entire civilization is not bad judgment. It's not poor messaging. It's a sign of someone who has lost touch with reality, someone who doesn't grasp the weight of the words coming out of his own mouth, someone too dangerous to command the world's most powerful military. And then Representative John Larson made it official. He filed 13 articles of impeachment. 13. This is not a one-note complaint. This is a comprehensive indictment. The first article charges Trump with waging illegal war. The others detail endangering American lives through reckless threats, violating international law, abuse of power, and the specific charge of threatening genocide. Each article is backed by evidence. Trump's own post is Exhibit A. The documented chaos of his Iran policy is the supporting affidavit. This is not a partisan stunt. This is a serious impeachment effort with serious charges backed by serious evidence. And here's what makes this different from the previous impeachments. Public support. The Ukraine impeachment split the country. The January 6th impeachment, while more supported, still faced a wall of Republican denial. But this time, 52% of Americans support impeachment. That's a majority. That's more than half the country saying, we've seen enough. We know what he did. He needs to be removed. That number changes everything, because impeachment is fundamentally a political act. It requires votes. Votes are driven by public opinion. When a majority of the country wants you removed, when even some Republicans are whispering concerns, when betting markets give you a nearly 1 in 3 chance of being ousted, that is serious political pressure. That is the kind of momentum that can actually force a door open. And Trump knows this. He can see the polls. He can see the betting lines. He can see the articles. He can see the 80-plus members demanding his head. He can see the Republican distance. And he is panicking, completely and utterly panicking. And his panic is manifesting as rage, unhinged truth social rants, attacks on everyone, conspiracy theories, desperate attempts to rally the faithful. But here's the fatal flaw in Trump's strategy. Every unhinged post makes him look worse. Every rant about witch hunts reinforces the narrative of instability. Every attack on a judge or a Democrat adds to the picture of a man having a mental breakdown in public. And Democrats are using it. They're pointing to the meltdown and saying, look, this is exactly what we're talking about. This is the evidence. This is why he's unfit. Let's talk about those 28% betting odds. They are telling because betting markets aggregate information without spin. They reflect what people with skin in the game actually think will happen. And right now, people are betting there's a real chance Trump gets removed. 1 in 4 is not a long shot. It's a realistic, terrifying possibility for this White House. And those odds spiked specifically because of the Iran threat and the subsequent impeachment filing. Because the situation has fundamentally changed. Because 52% support is unprecedented for this president, and Republicans are starting to crack. Not many, not most, but some are refusing to defend the civilization will die threat. Some are avoiding questions. Some are quietly saying behind closed doors that Trump went too far. And that is dangerous for Trump because his survival strategy requires total, unbroken Republican loyalty. If that protection erodes, if Republicans start prioritizing their own political survival over his, the shield disappears. He becomes vulnerable to impeachment, to to the 25th Amendment, to consequences he has dodged his entire career. And all of this is layered on top of everything else. The Attorney General fired and facing lawsuits. Military generals calling him incompetent and getting purged. Courts stripping immunity. Iran policy in shambles. An FBI director nominee distancing himself. And now, impeachment with majority support. Trump is dealing with this avalanche by having a public meltdown, by posting rants, by attacking, by spiraling. And every day that passes, every new rant, every new revelation adds to the pressure and makes removal more likely. Let's look inside those 13 impeachment articles. Representative Larson didn't just throw spaghetti at the wall. Each article is a carefully aimed missile. Article 1, waging illegal war. Trump's threats against Iran without congressional authorization, without following the War Powers Act, just a unilateral decision that he could threaten to wipe out a country. Article 2, endangering American lives. How reckless threats put troops, diplomats, and civilians at risk. The other articles cover the genocide threat specifically, the violations of international law, the abuse of presidential power, the pattern of instability, the refusal to listen to military advice, the creation of constitutional crisis, all of it documented, all of it backed by evidence, all of it creating a comprehensive case that Trump is not fit to serve, that he's dangerous, that he needs to be removed, not for political reasons, but for the safety of the country and the world. This comprehensive approach makes the impeachment harder to dismiss. Trump can't just call it a witch hunt when there are 13 separate, well-documented charges. He can't claim it's partisan when the articles cite his own public statements. He can't rally his base as easily when the accusations include threatening to murder 80 million people. Because even his most loyal supporters, even the ones who have defended him through everything, some of them are looking at that genocide threat and thinking, wait, that's too far. Even for Trump, that's actually disqualifying. All right, let's break this down to the core. There's a lot happening. The genocide threat, the impeachment articles, the public meltdown, the betting markets, the Republican cracks, but it's all connected. When you look at the big picture, it comes down to 3 key points. 3 reasons why this time might actually be different. 3 ways Trump might actually face consequences. Trump threatened genocide, and a majority of Americans want him removed for it. This is the foundation. A whole civilization will die tonight. That's a genocide threat. That's promising to murder 80 million people. The American public reacted. 52% now support impeachment. Majority support. Unprecedented. Trump has never faced this level of public opposition. Even during previous impeachments, even during January 6th, he never had majority support for removal. But now he does. And that changes the political calculation for everyone, because impeachment is political. It requires votes in the House and Senate. Votes are driven by public opinion. When 52% of Americans support impeachment, when constituents are calling and demanding action, when polling shows that defending Trump might cost you your seat, that changes things. That makes Republicans nervous. That makes impeachment possible in a way it wasn't before. The impeachment articles that Larson filed are solid. 13 charges, all well documented, all backed by Trump's own words and actions. Waging illegal war, endangering American lives, threatening genocide, violating international law. These aren't vague accusations. These are specific charges with specific evidence. And they give Republicans who want to break with Trump a framework to do it, a justification they can point to, a way to say, we're not being partisan, we're upholding the law, we're protecting America from a president who threatened to commit genocide. Think about the midterm implications. Republicans are going to have to campaign. Voters are going to ask, did you support the president who threatened to wipe out 80 million people? Did you defend that? Did you protect him? For Republicans in competitive districts, that's career suicide. And they know it. Some will start looking for exits, ways to distance themselves. That creates openings for impeachment to actually succeed. Trump is having a public mental breakdown, and it's making everything worse. His response to the impeachment pressure is destroying him. He's posting unhinged rants. He's attacking everyone. He's spiraling. Every post makes him look more unstable, more unfit. Democrats are pointing to the meltdown and saying, look, this man is not mentally fit to serve. He's having a breakdown in public. He cannot be trusted with nuclear weapons. Trump can't seem to stop himself. He keeps posting, keeps ranting, keeps making himself look worse. That's what Trump does when he's cornered. He lashes out, he attacks, he spirals. And this time, with impeachment articles filed and majority public support for removal, Trump is more cornered than ever. His response is a complete meltdown. And that meltdown is being used against him. It's becoming more evidence that he's unfit. It's pushing more people toward supporting removal. This creates a vicious cycle. Trump sees impeachment pressure. He panics. He posts unhinged rants. Those rants make him look unstable. Support for impeachment increases. Trump panics more. More unhinged posts. The cycle continues. Each iteration makes Trump look worse, makes removal more likely, makes even Republicans more nervous. Who wants to defend someone clearly having a mental breakdown? The content of Trump's rants is revealing. He's attacking judges, attacking Democrats, attacking generals, attacking everyone. In those attacks, you can see the desperation. You can see someone who knows they're losing control. That fear is palpable and makes Trump act even more erratically. The political math is shifting and Trump's protection is cracking. Trump has survived everything so far because Republicans protected him. But this time, that protection is showing cracks. Some Republicans are distancing themselves from the genocide threat. Some are refusing to defend it. Some are avoiding questions. Some are quietly expressing concerns. Most Republicans are still standing by Trump, but the fact that any are wavering is significant because Trump's survival requires unanimity. He needs total loyalty. But when you have majority public support for impeachment, when you have betting markets giving a 28% chance of removal, when you have even some Republicans expressing doubts, that unanimity breaks. And once it breaks, once Republicans start thinking about their own survival rather than Trump's, the whole thing can collapse quickly. The midterms are coming. Republicans see Trump's approval at 55% disapproval. They see 52% support impeachment. They're calculating. Some are thinking, do I want to defend genocide threats? Do I want to be the person who protected Trump after he threatened to wipe out 80 million people? Do I want to tie myself to someone having public mental breakdowns? For some, the answer is no. That creates openings for impeachment to succeed. So where does this leave us? Trump threatened genocide. Democrats filed 13 impeachment articles. 52% of Americans support removal. Trump is having a public meltdown that makes him look increasingly unfit. Betting markets give a 28% chance of removal. Even some Republicans are showing cracks. All of it is happening at once. All of it is building. Trump is spiraling. He's lashing out. He's making himself look worse every day. He can't stop because that's who he is. That's what he does when cornered. And this time, he's more cornered than ever. The consequences are coming. They're real. Trump can feel it. He's terrified. That terror is manifesting as rage, as unhinged posts, as a complete mental breakdown happening in real time. Watching Trump finally face the consequences of threatening genocide. Watching him spiral as impeachment becomes real. Watching his protection crack and his political survival become uncertain. This is what accountability looks like. It's justice, and it's only going to intensify. Trump made his choice. He threatened 80 million people. Now he has to face what happens when you cross that line, when you go too far, when even your own party questions whether you're worth protecting. That reckoning is happening now. Trump knows it. He's losing his mind. We're all watching it unfold. And there's nothing he can do to stop it. Nothing except keep posting, keep ranting, keep spiraling, keep making himself look more guilty and more unstable with every word. And that's exactly what he'll do, because Trump can't help himself. He can't control himself. He can't stop even when stopping is the only smart move. That's why this time might actually be different. That's why Trump might actually face real consequences, because he's his own worst enemy. He's destroying himself in public for everyone to see. And there's no coming back from this.